program to end at a particular date. To summarize, programs differ from portfolios in two important ways. Programs include work, project, subsidiary programs, and program activities that are interrelated. Programs also include the concept of time. Portfolios, on the other hand, do not have every piece of work in the portfolio related the way we see work related in a program, and portfolios are not constrained by the time factor. Let's talk about program and project distinctions. So, as we talked about previously, program management provides organizations with an effective framework for managing interrelated groupings of work. Here, we're going to further discuss three characteristics that distinguish programs from projects. These fundamental differences are found in the way programs and projects are managed in response to uncertainty. So when we talk about uncertainty, it's an inevitable challenge of managing programs. Uncertainty is especially high in the beginning of a program as outcomes are not clear. Programs and projects both exist in organizational environments in which the output, benefit, or outcome of the work may be somewhat unpredictable or uncertain. With that said, risk exists in both projects and programs. Now, uncertainty could be said to be in economies of scale. In the world of project management, you pretty much have a fixed idea of where you're going. For those of you following, we're on page 28, talking about 2.5.1. And when we talk about uncertainty on projects, we pretty much understand the gamut of uncertainties after a while. But by contrast, a program may not have all of its scope, budget, or schedule determined upfront. For that reason, we see programs having a higher level or possibility of uncertainty in that you could have programs canceling projects. You could have programs starting new projects or sub-programs. So the level of uncertainties where there are more associated pieces of work moving around is definitely more than on a project, and perhaps more complex than on a project by virtue of the number of pieces that you have in a program. Now, a program could be 2 projects, I know, but you also have programs that could have upwards of 10, 15, even more, 20 projects. So just be aware of that how you approach uncertainty in a project, you can move a lot quicker with more certainty than on a program where there are more moving parts. During the program, scope and content are continually elaborated, clarified, and adjusted to ensure the program's outcomes remain in alignment with the intended benefits. Let's talk about managing change. Again, managing change could be a lot more complex. Program managers need to consider 2 different categories of change. These are internal change and external change. Internal change, changes within the program. External change refers to need to adapt to the organization in order for it to be able to exploit the benefits created by the program. So there's a lot more responsibility and burden on a program manager, and resilience is needed, leadership is needed, focus is needed, analytical skills, a lot of stuff is needed when you're dealing with change of this magnitude. Issues related to change should be addressed differently within programs and projects. Projects deal with change in terms of scope, schedule, cost, and quality. As many of you have learned, as with uncertainty, programs should be better equipped to deal with change because they have the ability to change the direction of a component, cancel a component, or start a new component. In both programs and projects, there should be a rationale that justifies that the advantages of originating from a proposed change will outweigh potential drawbacks. Change within a project affects the defined deliverables at the tactical level, whereas change within a program affects the delivery of the intended benefits at the strategic level. Of course, a lot more visibility and a lot more weight. So managing change within the program requires strategic insight, understanding of the program's objectives and intended benefits. Change to any component within a program may have a direct impact on the delivery of the other related components. But bit of a trickier game in the world of programs. That's why, for this certification called the PgMP, they go from end to end to make sure you are truly solid. This is definitely not one of those cakewalk certifications. In programs, change management is a key activity, enabling stakeholders to carefully analyze the need for proposed change, the impact of change, and the approach or process for implementing and communicating change. So there are numerous dimensions of change, but we'll just limit these to program change. Program managers approach change at the program level in a fundamentally different way. Program managers depend on a predetermined, consistent level of performance from the components of the program. Project change. In project change, change management is employed to help the project manager team and stakeholders monitor and control the amount of variance from the planned cost and schedule while protecting the approved attributes and characteristics of the plan output. So I hope this has given you an idea of the enormity, the scale of program management. We're going to close out this chapter with complexity. And under complexity, we understand this is experienced at any level. You could have complex tasks, complex projects, complex programs, but it's all in economies of scale. But let's zero into the complexity of programs. The complexity of a program may be the result from a combination of factors: governance complexity, stakeholder complexity, definition complexity, benefits delivery complexity, which means the benefits delivery complexity focusing on benefits management. We have interdependency complexity. Program managers need to deal with this. A program focuses on interdependencies among components of the program and not necessarily on issues within individual projects. We also have resource complexity, the availability of resources at the required level or capability and capacity. Adequate funding, suitable supplies and materials. We also have scope complexity. This arises from a difficulty to clearly define the deliverables and benefits of a program and its components. We have change complexity. This arises from the different levels of impact the change could have in an organization. We have risk complexity. Risk complexity arises from the high level of uncertainty due to the extended program lifecycle and the uncertainty of components, the outcome of those components and their interdependencies. And then we can also talk about project complexity. A project could be complex because of uniqueness it presents, as well as a kind of thinking, action, and knowledge needed. We also have within project complexity the offshoots, organizational complexity, and dynamic complexity. Organizational complexity focuses on the depth of the organizational structure, as well as the number of organizational units. Dynamic complexity focuses on the project's behavior and how it changes over time. So when you take a look at chapter 2, it is loaded. And honestly, I just did it a tiny little piece of justice there because you still have a ton of definitions to go through and cover. All right, this is where it gets a lot quicker. So I want you to help drop a comment below. I want you to like and subscribe. If you want to see the continuation of the program management standard summary, I want you to like, subscribe, share. And when we get to a certain number, I'm looking to get 500 likes on this video, and then I will continue. I know program management isn't that popular among people that don't want to go the full mile. It's most popular among people who are actually managing programs and those who want to go the full mile. But I know there are enough PMPs out there to generate enough interest. I just want to use our time wisely. So if you want me to continue with this review beyond chapter 3 to chapter 7, why don't you hit a like, subscribe, share with a friend. And when we get to 500 likes, I will continue chapter 3 forward. Hopefully by then PMI would not have changed the standard, as is their characteristic. We know PMI always has tricks up their sleeve, but just judging by how busy they've been with the PMBOK Guide 7th edition, I don't think a lot of that will happen. All right, so why don't you take some time out, drop me a comment, drop me any questions that you might have, and let me know if you want me to continue. But I'm going to give you the 1-minute version of each of these, or should I say the 20-second version. So let's talk about program strategy alignment real quick. This is going to be a lot shorter than chapter 1 and 2. Under this chapter, we have the topics of the program business case, the program charter, the program roadmap, environmental assessments, and program risk management strategy. I'm going to cover these extremely rapid. When we talk about a business case, the business case makes a case for a project, in this case, a program. The completion of the strategic planning cycle results in the creation or update of the organization's strategic goals and objectives, which is documented in the organization's strategic plan. The organization's vision and mission are used as an input to the strategic planning cycle and are reflected throughout the strategic plan. The organization's strategic plan is divided into a set of organizational initiatives. As you've heard, many companies refer to them as initiatives. Programs come into existence as a result of the strategic business objective, and that goes into portfolios and tapers into programs. Now, the business case that we're talking about here could include details about the program outcomes, approved concept, issues, high-level risk, and opportunity assessment, key assumptions, and so on. Talking about the program charter, key elements of a program charter consist of program scope, assumptions, constraints, high-level risks to the program, high-level benefits from the program, goals and objectives, success factors, timing, key stakeholders, and other provisions very similar to your lineup in your project charter. Then we have the program roadmap. The program roadmap is a chronological representation of a program's intended direction, and it graphically depicts dependencies between major milestones and decision points. And if you take a look at page 37 in the standard for program management, it's an example of this. It shows you the waves. You've got wave one, a decision point. Within wave one, there was project D, then wave two. Within wave two, you got project E and J. And it shows how all of these projects taper in to the overarching program and how it spans across a period of time, period 1 to period N. Environmental assessments, they're often internal or external influences to the program that have a significant impact on the program's success. Influences from outside the program may be internal to the large organization or may come from sources external to the organization. Remember, we've also talked about enterprise environmental factors in the past, so this should not come as a surprise. Under environmental assessments, we talk about enterprise environmental factors, talk about environmental analysis, and we also talk about things like feasibility analysis, SWOT analysis, assumptions analysis, historical information analysis, and so on. And that takes us to 3.5, where we talk about program risk management strategy. Successful delivery of the program roadmap aligned with the organizational strategy and with consideration to the environmental factors found in the environmental assessments depends on a well-defined program risk strategy. Remember, we talked about risk being very different on programs. And because there's so many more moving parts and so many more dependencies, we have a whole lot of risks to think about. Now, when we talk about risk management for strategy alignment, we should remember that strategy alignment comprises the alignment of the program roadmap and its supported objectives to organizational strategy. And this involves having a risk management strategy that ensures effective management of any risk that can cause the program to be out of alignment with the organizational strategy. We want to keep our eye on those. We also have program risk thresholds. Risk threshold is a measure of the degree of acceptable variation around a program objective. We could have a minimum level of risk exposure for a risk, for example. We could have a qualitative or quantitative definition of a risk rating, and we could have a maximum level of risk exposure. And all of these are terms we use when we talk about program risk thresholds. Moving on here, we also have initial program risk assessments talked about, no-brainer. Program risk response strategy. The program risk response strategy combines the elements of the risk threshold and the initial risk assessment into a plan for how program risk will be managed and effectively and consistently done throughout the life of the program. And that concludes chapter 3. Now,